I had an uncle who moved from Brooklyn to Montana and basically lived on a ranch and would show up in New York every now and then for a Jewish holiday with a handlebar mustache and driving a 54 Ford pickup with a 750 Norton in the back. And I pretty much thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And he played guitar and mandolin and wore little round glasses like John Lennon and blew my mind when I was a kid. I really learned how to play guitar, and this is no joke, from watching Don Kirshner's rock concert, which I would religiously stay up. My parents had this little tiny orange rounded back Panasonic TV that was black and white, and it was small enough that I could kind of tilt it up on its back, and I would put the guitar fretboard up against the TV screen and wait for them to show a shot of someone playing guitar. And then when they did that, I'd be like, oh, I got a chord, or half a chord. I started touring in bands, just being a guitarist when I was 14, with a bunch of guys that were in their mid-20s, basically because they didn't have a guitarist and I could play really fast, and I'd never heard of hardcore punk, and they basically turned me on to it, and I showed up in a terry cloth t-shirt and had no idea that there was a uniform or a look or anything. But I could play so fast that they were like, you want to play with us at CBGB's tomorrow night? I was like, okay. This band got so many gigs that we'd play 3, 4. At that point in New York, this was about 1980, you could play 6 nights a week at different clubs.
Right.
Like if you played punk. There was like matinees on CB's, there was the Mud Club, there was A7, there was the Peppermint Lounge, and we played constantly. When 4-track cassettes came out, which were the first kind of all-enclosed little miniature home recording studio, it had a mic input and it had an EQ, and you just pop in a cassette and you could start overdubbing. We would go to Sam Ash and save all our money for 4 months and rent one for a weekend and stay up for 48 hours and record 48 hours worth of music. At that point, I must have been like 15, so I was still living at my parents' house. And then the first Bark Market record I did by myself on a 4-track. Well, I had different musicians come in, like I'd trick a drummer into playing something, and then he wouldn't know he was playing on a song. Record some beats, and like somehow, try this, and then I'd get what I wanted, and then he'd leave, and I'd sit there for a day, chopping it up on actual tape or cutting cassette tape and putting it back together. And then made a cassette, and then walked around New York with copies that I made in real time and some artwork, and got it into all the little indie record stores and sent it to the radio stations, and they started playing it, and it started selling, the 10 or 15 copies I'd leave, and I'd go back and sell more, and, literally just like that. You have to become a working band. So my goal was always to be a working band and not have to have a straight job, and we managed to do it for about 8 years. And we were touring with bands that were getting record deals. When we do our record, I love the way your record sounds. Will you do my record? Sure. By the end of touring Bark Market, I was in a situation where I was producing Helmet or producing Slayer. Self-producing teaches you how to be a producer because you have to jump outside of yourself all the time. Mm-hmm. And I got to the point where I was also a good enough artist to see that I wasn't being as good at either by doing both. At that point, at 30, I decided to stop playing in Bark Market and see how far I could go with the production thing. This is the dream that I had, but I just didn't know how to articulate it when I was a little kid.